The massive space station called Concordia floated in the dark space between three solar systems. It was built long ago as a neutral meeting place where different alien races could talk without fighting. Today, something important was happening here. The most powerful alien races in the galaxy had come together to discuss what to do about humans. Ambassador Chen Wei walked through the long metal corridors of the station. His black suit looked simple compared to the strange clothes and bodies of the aliens around him. Some aliens had crystal skin that sparkled under the lights. Others looked like giant insects with many arms and legs. A few were just floating balls of energy that glowed different colors. Chen had been Earth's top diplomat for 15 years. He had learned to keep his face calm even when he was angry or scared. Today he needed that skill more than ever. The three most powerful alien races wanted to decide humanity's future, and they thought humans should be grateful for whatever scraps they offered. The meeting room was huge and round. In the center was a large table that could change shape to fit different alien bodies. Around the table sat the leaders of three great empires that had been fighting each other for hundreds of years. Ambassador Zektar represented the Zephyrian Empire. His body looked like it was made of blue crystal that grew in sharp points. When he moved, his crystal parts made soft ringing sounds like wind chimes. The Zephyrians controlled over 200 star systems and thought they were the smartest race in the galaxy. Next to him sat Hive Speaker Clix of the Keth Confederacy. She looked like a giant ant that could stand on two legs with 4 arms and huge black eyes. Her race worked together like a beehive, with billions of workers following the orders of their queens. The Keth controlled the largest number of planets, even though most were just factory worlds full of workers. The third leader was harder to look at directly. Vulthan Prime Minister Nexus appeared as a shifting ball of purple and gold energy. Sometimes the energy tried to form a human-like shape, but it kept changing and flowing. The Vulthans had given up physical bodies long ago and lived as pure energy. They could travel faster than anyone else and see through time in ways other races could not understand. Chen took his seat at the table. The chair had been made for humans, but it still felt uncomfortable. Everything about this place reminded him that humans were newcomers who did not really belong. "Welcome, human representative," said Zektar. His voice sounded like someone speaking through a crystal cave. "We are pleased that your species has accepted our invitation to discuss your future in the galaxy." Chen nodded politely. "Thank you for including Earth in these discussions." The three alien leaders looked at each other in ways that Chen had learned meant they were sharing private thoughts. Each race had different ways of talking without speaking out loud. After a moment, Zektar continued. "As you know, our three great civilizations have been in conflict for many decades. This war has unfortunately spread to include newer races like humanity. We have decided it is time to bring order to the galaxy and end the fighting." Hive Speaker Clix clicked her mandibles together, which Chen knew was how the Keth showed agreement. "The galaxy needs structure and proper management. Too many small races are causing problems by fighting over resources and territory." Vulthan Nexus shifted into something that might have been meant to look friendly. "We have watched your species for 50 years, since you first achieved faster-than-light travel. You show promise, but you lack the wisdom that comes with age. You need guidance." Chen kept his face blank, but inside he felt a cold anger growing. These aliens talked about humans like they were children who needed adult supervision. "What kind of guidance do you have in mind?" Zektar's crystal body flashed brighter. "We propose to offer your species protectorate status under the joint supervision of our three empires. This is a great honor that few races receive." "What would that mean for humanity?" Chen asked, though he already knew he would not like the answer. Clix leaned forward on her 4 arms. "Your expansion beyond your current 12 colonies would be limited to worlds we approve. Your military would be reduced to police forces only. Your resource extraction would be managed by our experts to ensure efficiency." Chen felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice level. "And in return?" "Protection," said Nexus, the energy being's voice echoing strangely. "No other race would dare attack worlds under our protection. Your people would be safe to focus on art, science, and culture instead of war. Of course, any scientific discoveries would be shared with your protectors," added Zektar. "We have much experience in developing new technologies properly." Chen looked around the table at the three alien leaders. They seemed to think they were offering humanity an amazing gift. In their minds, they were being generous by not simply conquering Earth and making humans into slaves. "How many other races have accepted this protectorate status?" Chen asked. "Many dozens," said Clix proudly. "The galaxy is much more peaceful when proper order is maintained." Chen nodded slowly. He had spent months preparing for this moment. studying everything Earth spies had learned about these three empires. The protectorate races they mentioned were essentially slave species. They worked in mines and factories, grew food for their masters, and had no real freedom to choose their own path. I see, Chen said. And if humanity were to refuse this generous offer? The three aliens looked at each other again. This time their silent communication seemed more intense. Zektar finally answered. That would be unwise. Your species controls only 12 worlds. We control hundreds each. Your fleets number in the dozens. Ours number in the thousands. Refusing our protection would leave you vulnerable to conquest by other races, or even to being divided between our three empires. The threat was clear, even though it was spoken politely. Accept slavery or face total conquest. Chen reached into his jacket and pulled out a small recording device. He placed it on the table where everyone could see it. I want to make sure I have an accurate record of these negotiations to report back to Earth. None of the aliens objected. They probably thought it was cute that the primitive humans wanted to record their own surrender. For the next 2 hours, the three alien leaders took turns explaining exactly what humanity's future would look like under their guidance. Humans would be allowed to keep their own culture, as long as it did not conflict with galactic law. They could travel between their worlds, but only with permission. They could continue scientific research, but all results would be shared with their protectors. It sounded like a cage made of silk instead of iron, but it was still a cage. Chen listened to it all without showing any emotion. He asked detailed questions about population limits, resource quotas, and military restrictions. The alien seemed pleased by his thorough attention to the details of humanity's surrender. Finally, Zektar asked the question Chen had been waiting for. Do you have any other questions before you return to Earth with our proposal? Chen looked at each of the three alien leaders in turn, then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, but the kind of smile a poker player makes when he knows he has the winning hand. Actually, Chen said, I believe I have heard enough to give you Earth's answer right now. The three alien leaders leaned forward with interest when Chen said he was ready to give Earth's answer. They expected him to ask for time to discuss the terms with his government, or maybe to try negotiating for slightly better conditions. No species had ever been offered protectorate status by all three empires working together. In their minds, humanity should feel honored. Chen stood up slowly from his chair. The movement made all the aliens focus on him completely. The crystal parts of Zektar's body stopped ringing. Clix's forearms became perfectly still. Even Nexus's swirling energy patterns seemed to pause. The United Earth government has given me full authority to speak for humanity in these negotiations, Chen began. His voice was calm and clear, like a teacher explaining something simple to students. After careful consideration of your proposals, I can give you our answer immediately. Zektar's crystal body flashed with satisfaction. Excellent. We are pleased that humans can recognize wisdom when they see it. Chen nodded politely. Earth thanks the Zephyrian Empire, the Keth Confederacy, and the Volthan Republic for their detailed explanation of how they see humanity's future in the galaxy. He paused and looked directly at each alien leader in turn. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of an entire species behind it. However, Earth must respectfully decline your offer of protectorate status. The silence that followed was so complete that Chen could hear the soft humming of the station's air recycling systems. The three alien leaders sat frozen, as if they could not understand the words they had just heard. Hive speaker Clix was the first to react. Her mandibles clicked rapidly in what Chen recognized as confusion or distress. Decline? You cannot decline. We have offered you protection and guidance. No race refuses such an offer. Chen remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back. With respect, Hive speaker Clix, humanity chooses to refuse. Volthan Nexus's energy form began swirling faster, shifting through colors that Chen had learned meant agitation. Perhaps you misunderstood our proposal. We are not asking if you want protection. We are informing you that you need it. The galaxy is dangerous for species that stand alone. I understood your proposal perfectly, Chen replied. You want humanity to give up the right to expand freely, to defend ourselves, and to control our own resources. In exchange, you offer to protect us from threats that you yourselves represent. Earth finds these terms unacceptable. Zektar's crystal body began ringing more loudly as his pieces vibrated with emotion. Unacceptable? Human, you seem to misunderstand your position. Your species has been in space for barely 50 years. We have ruled the galaxy for thousands. You have 12 small colonies. We control hundreds of rich worlds each. What makes you think you can simply refuse our guidance? Chen smiled again. And this time there was something in his expression that made the aliens feel uncomfortable, though they could not say why. You ask what gives us the right to refuse? The same thing that gave you the right to build your empires in the first place. The right of any intelligent species to choose its own path among the stars. Click stood up on her four legs, her height making her tower over the human. Pretty words, but words do not stop warships. If you refuse our protection, you will be conquered by someone else. Perhaps by all three of us working together. Better to serve willingly than to be enslaved by force, added Nexus, his energy form trying to look threatening. Chen reached into his jacket again, but this time he pulled out a small communication device instead of a recorder. Before I continue, I should mention that this conversation is being broadcast live to the entire human fleet currently stationed in this system. The aliens looked at each other with what might have been amusement. Zektar made a sound like crystal wind chimes, laughing. The human fleet? Our sensors detected 3 of your ships when you arrived. Are you planning to threaten us with 3 vessels? Chen activated his communication device. This is Ambassador Chen to all ships. Please decloak and identify yourselves for our hosts. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the aliens' expressions began to change as their sensor system started detecting energy signatures throughout the solar system. First 1 ship appeared on their screens, then 10, then 50, then hundreds. The space around Concordia Station suddenly filled with vessels of all shapes and sizes. Some looked like human ships, but others were clearly built by different races. Strange designs that the 3 great empires had never seen before materialized out of empty space. Clix's mandibles began clicking in rapid patterns that Chen knew meant extreme agitation. Impossible. Our sensors showed nothing. How did you hide so many ships? We did not hide them, Chen said calmly. Our friends did. Zektar's crystal body was now ringing like an alarm bell. Friends? What friends? No race would dare ally with humanity against us. Chen looked at the displays showing the hundreds of ships surrounding the station. Each vessel represented a species that the 3 great empires had dismissed as unimportant, conquered, or simply ignored. You might be surprised, Chen said. It turns out that there are many races in the galaxy who are tired of being told what they can and cannot do by the so-called great powers. Nexus's energy form was shifting rapidly. Through colors that Chen had learned meant fear and anger. This is some kind of trick. Illusions or false sensor readings. No alliance of minor races could challenge our power. Chen activated his communication device again. Admiral Zhang, please give our hosts a demonstration of our new defensive capabilities. On the screens around the meeting room, the aliens watched as several of the unknown ships began generating energy fields unlike anything in their databases. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the vessels, creating barriers that their most advanced sensors could not penetrate. Dimensional folding technology, Chen explained conversationally, very useful for both defense and concealment. The Genti people developed it over 1,000 years ago, but I suppose your empires never bothered to ask them about their achievements. Click slammed one of her forearms on the table. The Genti are primitive. They barely have spaceflight. They have what you might call a different approach to technology, Chen agreed. They prefer to stay on their home worlds and think deep thoughts about the nature of space and time. But when someone treats them with respect and asks nicely, they are quite willing to share their knowledge. Zektar was studying the energy readings from the alien ships with growing alarm. These power signatures, some of these technologies are completely unknown to us. How is this possible? Chen sat back down in his chair, looking perfectly relaxed despite being surrounded by 3 of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. It is amazing what you can learn when you take the time to actually talk to other species, instead of just demanding their surrender. For the past 50 years, while your 3 empires have been fighting each other over territory and resources, humanity has been doing something different. We have been listening. We have been learning. Most importantly, we have been making friends. Nexus's energy form had stabilized into what Chen recognized as intense concentration. You cannot possibly have united all the minor races. Many of them have been our subjects for centuries. Not all of them, Chen admitted, but enough. It turns out that when you offer genuine friendship instead of conquest, when you propose trade partnerships instead of slavery, when you treat other species as equals instead of subjects, many of them are very interested in what you have to say. The 3 alien leaders looked at each other, and Chen could see that they were finally beginning to understand that the galaxy had changed while they were not paying attention. What do you want? Zektar asked, his crystal voice much quieter now. Chen smiled, and this time it was a genuinely friendly expression. What we have always wanted. The right to live free and choose our own destiny among the stars, and the same right for every other species that wants it. The silence in the meeting room stretched like a tight wire ready to snap. The three most powerful beings in the known galaxy stared at the human ambassador, who had just told them that their entire understanding of galactic politics was wrong. Zektar was the first to break the silence. His crystal body flashed through several colors before settling on a deep red that Chen had learned meant anger mixed with disbelief. "This is impossible," Zektar said, his voice ringing like cracked bells. "No collection of minor races could challenge the established order. You are bluffing, human. These ships are holographic projections or some other primitive deception." Hive speaker Clix's forearms moved in complex patterns as she communicated silently with her hive mind. After a moment, she spoke aloud. "My military analysts confirm that the ships are real. But this changes nothing. Even with help from primitive allies, you cannot match our combined strength. We control the core worlds, the major trade routes, the resource-rich systems. You have gathered a collection of outcasts and failures." Chen listened patiently as the alien leaders tried to convince themselves that their situation had not really changed. He had expected this reaction. In his years as a diplomat, he had learned that powerful people often refuse to see the truth when it threatens their power. Vulthan Nexus had been quiet while his energy form swirled through different patterns. When he finally spoke, his voice carried an undertone that Chen recognized as fear, trying to hide behind arrogance. "Let us assume for a moment that your alliance is real," Nexus said. "What do you hope to accomplish? Even if you have managed to arm a few dozen inferior races, we control thousands of worlds. Our combined fleets number in the millions of ships. Your little rebellion will be crushed within a standard galactic year." Chen stood up again and walked to the large window that showed the space around Concordia Station. Hundreds of ships from dozens of different races hung in the darkness, their various designs creating a tapestry of technological diversity that the galaxy had never seen before. "You keep talking about crushing us," Chen said without turning around, "but you still do not understand what you are really facing." He turned back to face the three alien leaders. "You see, the problem with your empires is that you think in very simple terms. You count ships and planets and assume that the side with the most of both must win, but warfare has evolved beyond simple numbers." Chen activated his communication device again. "Admiral Zhang, please show our host the Merhai gravitational demonstration." On the screens around the room, the aliens watched as one of the unknown ships began to affect the space around it, in ways that should have been impossible. The massive Concordia station, which had remained in perfect position for centuries, began to drift slowly toward the alien vessel. Clix's mandibles clicked in rapid alarm patterns. "They are moving the station." "How are they manipulating gravity fields of that magnitude?" "The Merhai are an aquatic species from the deep ocean worlds," Chen explained. "Your empires classified them as primitive because they never developed traditional spacecraft. What you failed to notice is that they became masters of gravitational manipulation in order to move through their crushing deep-sea environments. When humans offered to provide them with space-worthy vessels in exchange for their knowledge, they were quite interested in seeing what their technology could do among the stars." Zektar's crystal body was now flashing through colors so rapidly that it was painful to look at directly. "Stop this demonstration immediately. If you damage this station, it will be considered an act of war." Chen nodded to his communication device and the gravitational effect stopped. Concordia Station drifted back to its original position as if nothing had happened. "We have no interest in damaging neutral facilities," Chen said. "We are simply showing you that your assumptions about technological superiority may be incorrect." Nexus's energy form had compressed into a tight, angry ball. "Impressive tricks, but tricks nonetheless. Gravitational manipulation has been known for millennia. It proves nothing. Perhaps you would be more impressed by Silten quantum processing," Chen asked. "They can predict the movement of your fleets days before your own commanders have decided where to send them. Or maybe the Corvin biotech that can adapt to any weapon system in real time. The Tyson phase shift technology that makes your sensor arrays completely useless?" With each technology Chen mentioned, the faces of the three alien leaders grew more troubled. These were not minor improvements to existing systems. These were fundamental advances that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Click stood up to her full height, trying to use her size to intimidate the human. "Even if these technologies exist, you cannot have had time to integrate them properly. It takes centuries to fully understand and implement advanced alien science." Chen smiled again. That might be true if we were trying to force these technologies into our existing systems, but humans have a different approach. Instead of trying to make everything work the same way, we let each species contribute what they do best. He gestured toward the window where the mixed fleet waited. Those ships are not human vessels with alien technology bolted on. They are true collaborations. Genti-dimensional engineers working with human tacticians. Merhai gravitational specialists paired with Corvin biosystem designers. Each ship is unique, designed specifically for its crew and mission. Impossible, Zektar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Different species cannot work together so closely. The technical barriers alone are solved when you actually treat other species as equals instead of subjects. Chen finished. When you share knowledge freely instead of hoarding it for advantage. When you build relationships based on mutual respect instead of conquest. The three alien leaders looked at each other, and Chen could see the fear beginning to overcome their arrogance. Their empires were built on the assumption that they were naturally superior to all other races. If that assumption was wrong, then everything they had built was vulnerable. Nexus made one last attempt to reassert control. You speak of friendship and cooperation, but you have brought a war fleet to a peace negotiation. That does not sound very peaceful to us. Chen walked back to the table and sat down. We brought enough ships to ensure that this negotiation would be conducted between equals, rather than between masters and a soon-to-be slave. But you are right that we are prepared for war. He looked directly at each alien leader in turn. The question is whether war will be necessary. We came here hoping to find a peaceful solution to the galaxy's problems, but we will not accept slavery as the price of peace. Clix's forearms were trembling slightly. What are you proposing? A new way of organizing galactic civilization, Chen said. One based on voluntary cooperation instead of forced submission. One where each species contributes their unique strengths instead of being forced to copy the same tired imperial model. Zektar's crystal body had dimmed to a dull gray color. And if we refuse? Chen's expression became very serious. Then you will discover that humans are very good at learning from their enemies. We have studied your tactics, your strategies, your weaknesses, and we have shared that knowledge with every species you have ever conquered or threatened. He stood up one final time. The age of the great empires is ending, whether you choose to accept it peacefully or not. The only question is whether you want to be part of building something better, or whether you want to fight a war you cannot win to preserve something that was never sustainable. The three alien leaders sat in stunned silence as the full implications of humanity's words sank in. The galaxy they had ruled for so long was changing, and they were no longer in control of that change. While the three alien leaders sat in shocked silence, Chen decided it was time to tell them the full story of how the galaxy had changed while they were fighting each other. He activated his communication device one more time. Admiral Zhang, please transmit the historical files to the station's main display systems. Our hosts deserve to understand what has really been happening in the galaxy. The screens around the meeting room came alive with star maps, diplomatic records, and communication logs. What they showed was a story that the three great empires had completely missed. 50 years ago, when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel, we made a discovery that changed everything, Chen began. We found that the galaxy was full of intelligent species that your empires had either conquered, ignored, or dismissed as unimportant. The first image showed a small, blue-green world orbiting a dim star. This is Genti Prime, home to the species you mentioned earlier. When human explorers first made contact, we learned that the Genti had been developing their dimensional science for over 1,000 years. But they had never been interested in expanding beyond their home system. Zektar's crystal body flickered with confusion. We investigated the Genti centuries ago. They refused all contact and had no technology worth taking. Because you approached them as conquerors, Chen replied. When humans approached them as friends, offering to share our own knowledge and asking to learn from theirs, they were much more welcoming. It turns out that the Genti had been waiting for someone who would treat them as equals. The display changed to show an ocean world covered in vast cities that extended deep beneath the waves. The Merhai were classified by your empires as aquatic primitives because they never developed spacecraft. What you failed to understand was that they never needed spacecraft, because they had mastered gravitational manipulation to move through their dense ocean environments. Hive speaker clicked her mandibles. In what Chen had learned was embarrassment. We attempted to establish mining operations on several Merhai worlds. They drove us away with gravitational weapons, but we assumed they were simply using natural phenomena. They were defending their homes with technology that could revolutionize space travel, Chen said. But instead of trying to understand what they had accomplished, you simply marked their worlds as hostile and moved on to easier targets. The next image showed a world that looked like it was made entirely of crystal formations that grew in impossible geometric patterns. The Silton crystal matrices you saw earlier represent a completely different approach to computing. While your civilizations developed electronic systems, the Silton learned to grow quantum processors using living crystal that can process information in ways that your best computers cannot match. Volthan nexuses, energy form was swirling in patterns that Chen recognized as deep thought mixed with regret. We contacted the Silton 300 years ago. They offered to trade their crystal technology for protection from raiders. We told them their crystals were interesting curiosities but had no military applications. And now those curiosities can predict your fleet movements days in advance, Chen said, because you never bothered to really understand what they were offering. The display continued showing world after world, species after species. Each one had been contacted by the great empires at some point and found wanting. Each one had unique technologies, knowledge, or abilities that had been dismissed because they did not fit into the traditional models of spacefaring civilization. The pattern became clear very quickly, Chen continued. Your three empires were so focused on competing with each other that you had stopped paying attention to the rest of the galaxy. You were fighting over the same old territories, using the same old strategies, while dozens of species were developing amazing new capabilities that you never even noticed. Clix was studying the star maps with growing alarm. How many species are part of this alliance? 47 as of last week, Chen replied. Though more are joining every month. It turns out that once word spreads about an alternative to imperial domination, many species are very interested in learning more. Zekatar's crystal body had gone completely gray. This is impossible. We monitor all communications, all trade routes, all diplomatic contacts. How could such a large alliance form without our knowledge? Chen smiled. Because you only monitor communications that use your technology and your networks. The Thyssen developed phase-shift communication that operates outside normal space-time. The Vicari perfected biological message systems that look like natural phenomena. The Jorvac created quantum-entangled courier networks that are literally undetectable. Each species contributed their own unique communication methods to create a network that spans half the galaxy without using a single one of your monitored channels, he continued. While you were watching each other, we were building something completely new. The displays now showed the true scope of what humanity had accomplished. Trade routes that bypassed all three empires. Resource-sharing agreements that made entire star systems economically independent. Defense pacts that created mutual protection without requiring anyone to give up their freedom. But how did you coordinate all of this? Nexus asked, his energy form shifting to colors that Chen knew meant fascination despite his fear. 47 different species with different cultures, different technologies, different ways of thinking. The logistics alone should have been impossible. That is where humanity's real strength comes in, Chen said. We are very good at adapting to different situations and finding ways to work with people who are different from us. On Earth, we had thousands of different cultures learning to cooperate despite their differences. That experience prepared us well for galactic diplomacy. The screen showed a montage of human diplomats working with dozens of different alien species, humans learning to communicate through color patterns with energy beings, humans working underwater with aquatic species, humans sharing meals adapted for completely different biological systems. Humans became the translators, the mediators, the bridge builders, Chen explained. Not because we were the smartest or the strongest, but because we were willing to meet each species on their own terms instead of demanding that they adapt to ours. Clix was trembling as the full implications became clear. You have built a shadow empire that spans half the galaxy, and we never even knew it existed. Not an empire, Chen corrected. An alliance of equals. Every species maintains complete control over their own worlds and their own decisions. We share knowledge, resources, and protection freely, but no one gives orders to anyone else. Zekatar made a sound like crystal breaking. Without central authority, how do you maintain order? How do you resolve disputes? How do you coordinate military actions? The same way humans learned to do it on Earth, Chen replied. Through negotiation, compromise, and mutual respect. It takes longer than simply giving orders, but the results are much stronger because everyone has chosen to participate willingly. The final image on the display showed the mixed fleet surrounding Concordia Station. hundreds of ships from dozens of species, each one unique but all working together toward common goals. "This is what we came here to offer you," Chen said. "Not conquest, not revenge, but a chance to be part of something better than the endless cycle of imperial warfare that has consumed the galaxy for millennia." The three alien leaders stared at the displays in silence. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had been wrong. While they were fighting over scraps of their ancient empires, a completely new form of civilization had grown up around them. "What happens now?" Zektar asked, his voice barely audible. Chen looked at each of them in turn. "That depends on what you choose to do next." The silence in the meeting room stretched for several long minutes. The three most powerful beings in the known galaxy sat staring at displays that showed their empires surrounded by an alliance they had never suspected existed. Chen waited patiently, giving them time to fully understand their situation. Finally, Volthan Nexus spoke, his energy form shifting to the colors Chen had learned indicated deep uncertainty. "If what you say is true, then we have been fighting over a smaller and smaller piece of the galaxy, while you built something entirely new around us." "That is exactly right," Chen confirmed. "While your three empires spent decades destroying each other's fleets and burning each other's worlds, 47 other species were working together to create prosperity and security through cooperation instead of conquest." Hive speaker Clix's forearms moved in complex patterns as she processed information from her hive mind. "My analysts are reporting that many of our tributary species have been requesting changes to their agreements with us over the past few years. We assumed they were simply trying to negotiate better terms. Some of them were testing the waters," Chen admitted. "Word of the alliance has been spreading, even to worlds within your empires. Many species are beginning to ask why they should remain subjects when they could be partners." Zektar's crystal body flashed through several colors before settling on a dull orange that Chen recognized as deep thought. "How many of our subject species have already joined your alliance?" "None yet," Chen replied. "We do not recruit subjects of the three empires. We wait for them to choose freedom for themselves. But when they do ask for our help in gaining independence, we provide it." The crystal alien's body brightened with anger. "You are encouraging rebellion within our territories." "We are offering an alternative to imperial slavery," Chen corrected calmly. "Just as we offered you an alternative to the endless cycle of warfare between your empires. The choice of what to do with that offer is always yours to make." Nexus had been studying the tactical displays showing the mixed fleet surrounding the station. "Your ships," he said. "They are not positioned for attack. They are positioned for defense and demonstration." "Very observant," Chen said. "We came here hoping for peace, not war. Everything we have shown you today was meant to prove that we are negotiating from a position of strength, not to threaten you with destruction." Clix leaned forward, her large black eyes reflecting the light from the displays. "But you are prepared for war if we refuse your offer of peace." Chen's expression became very serious. "We have learned from human history that sometimes peaceful people must be prepared to fight in order to protect their freedom and the freedom of others. We hope that will not be necessary, but we will not allow ourselves or our allies to be enslaved." The three alien leaders looked at each other, engaging in rapid silent communication. Chen could see the fear and uncertainty in their postures. Their entire understanding of galactic politics had been overturned in a single conversation. After several minutes, Zektar spoke for all three of them. "What exactly are you proposing? If we were to accept this new paradigm, what would it mean for our empires?" "That depends on what your empires choose to become," Chen replied. "The Galactic Cooperative Alliance is not interested in destroying existing governments or conquering territory. We are interested in transforming the galaxy from a collection of competing empires into a community of cooperating civilizations." He activated his communication device again. "Admiral Zhang, please display the integration proposals." The screens around the room changed to show detailed plans for how the three great empires could transition from their current imperial structure to becoming members of the alliance. The proposals were surprisingly generous, offering to preserve much of their existing territory and authority while eliminating the more oppressive aspects of their rule. The Zephyrian Empire could maintain control over its core worlds while granting independence to species that request it, Chen explained. "Your advanced crystal technology would be invaluable to the alliance, and your experience in space engineering could help develop new types of collaborative vessels." Zektar studied the proposals with growing surprise. "You are not demanding our surrender or the dissolution of our government. Why would we?" Chen asked. The Zephyrian people have as much right to self-determination as any other species. We are only asking that you extend that same right to the species you currently rule. The proposal for the Keth Confederacy was equally reasonable. Your hive mind coordination abilities could revolutionize how large-scale projects are managed across multiple star systems, Chen continued. And your manufacturing expertise is legendary throughout the galaxy. Clix's mandibles clicked in what Chen had learned was surprise mixed with hope. You would allow us to maintain our hive structure? The Alliance celebrates diversity, Chen replied. We have no interest in forcing other species to adopt human governmental systems or social structures. We only ask that you respect the right of other species to maintain their own systems as well. The proposal for the Volthan Republic was perhaps the most complex, given their energy-based existence. Your temporal perception abilities and faster-than-light communication methods could help coordinate Alliance activities across vast distances, Chen explained. And your philosophical insights could help guide the Alliance's development. Nexus's energy form had stabilized into colors that Chen recognized as cautious optimism. You have clearly given this considerable thought. But how do we know this alliance will not simply become another empire once it grows large enough? Chen smiled. Because the alliance's fundamental structure prevents that from happening. There is no central government that could seize control of other members. No single species has authority over any other. All decisions are made through negotiation and consensus among equals. That sounds impossibly slow and inefficient, Clix objected. Sometimes it is, Chen admitted. But it is also incredibly resilient. No enemy can cripple the alliance by attacking a single capital world or killing a single leader. No internal coup can seize control of the entire organization. And no member can be forced to participate in activities they oppose. Zektar was studying the governmental structure proposals with the intensity of someone trying to find hidden traps. What about disputes between members? What about military coordination? What about resource allocation? All handled through specialized committees with representatives from multiple species, Chen replied. Military coordination is managed by joint commands with officers from several different races. Resource allocation is handled through trade agreements and mutual aid treaties. Disputes are resolved through mediation and arbitration. The three alien leaders spent the next hour asking detailed questions about how the alliance actually functioned. Chen answered each question patiently, providing examples from the alliance's short but successful history. Finally, Nexus asked the question that Chen had been waiting for. If we were to agree to join this alliance, what guarantees do we have that our species would be treated as equals, rather than conquered subjects? The same guarantee that every other member has, Chen replied. The alliance's founding charter, which requires unanimous consent from all members to make any changes to the basic structure, and the practical guarantee that any member can leave at any time if they decide the alliance is not working for them. You would allow members to leave? Clix asked in disbelief. Of course, Chen said. Forced membership would make us just another empire with prettier words. True cooperation can only exist between beings who choose to participate freely. The three alien leaders looked at each other one final time. When they turned back to Chen, their expressions had changed from fear and anger to something that might have been hope. We will need time to consider your proposals and discuss them with our governments, Zektar said. Naturally, Chen agreed. These are not decisions to be made lightly. Clix leaned forward. How long do we have to decide? Chen stood up and walked back to the window showing the mixed fleet. As long as you need, he said. But I should mention that we will not be waiting passively. The alliance will continue to grow and develop whether your empires join or not. The longer you wait, the smaller the galaxy becomes for those who choose to remain outside the new paradigm. As if to emphasize his point, Chen's communication device chimed with an incoming message. He listened for a moment, then smiled. I have just been informed that 3 more species have requested membership in the alliance while we have been talking, he said, including 2 that were formerly subjects of the Keth Confederacy. The implications were clear. The galaxy was changing whether the 3 great empires participated or not. They could choose to be part of building something better, or they could watch from the sidelines as their empires gradually dissolved around them. Chen gathered his materials and prepared to leave. The Alliance will be establishing a permanent diplomatic mission at this station, he said. When you are ready to discuss the future, we will be here. As the human delegation departed, the 3 alien leaders sat in stunned silence, staring out at the fleet of ships that represented a completely new way of organizing galactic civilization. The Age of Empires was ending, and the Age of Cooperation was